A pleasant day once again to my grade 11 students. Welcome to another video lesson in your subject, Oral Communication in Context. And once again, I'm your teacher, Mr. Reggie A. Bonifacio. For the past two discussions and two video lessons, we have already talked about the definition of communication and the important processes that are involved in effective communication. For this session, we will be discussing the five important functions of communication. Just by looking at our opening slide, you can see here 5 photos or 5 pictures which are perfect depictions of the 5 functions of communication. The first photo shows 4 friends who are talking about anything under the sun. The second picture shows a policeman who is signaling traffic and organizing traffic on the road. The third one, we can see here a motivational speaker who is delivering an inspirational speech to his listeners. The fourth photo obviously shows an angry woman who is expressing her anger to someone or to something. And the final picture, we can see here a TV female reporter who is broadcasting her news live to the viewers and to her listeners. Now students, what do you think are the 5 functions of communication being depicted by these 5 photos? Later on, before we end our discussion, I am going to show you the answers. At this point, students, we are now going to start our discussion of the 5 functions of communication. The first function is control or regulation. In here, a person or the speaker communicates to regulate a certain behavior. He or she uses verbal and nonverbal cues to manage an individual or group. In regulation or control, for example, the speaker says something or uses nonverbal cues to command, request, or make the listener or listeners do something or perform something. Just like in our example here, our picture shows a boy or a person telling us to not touch him because of the current pandemic, and also to wear the proper personal protective equipment. Other examples of control or regulation are when soldiers are asked to make the salute stance, when your parent asks you to close the door and lock it, when you see the school librarian perform the hush sign telling us or telling you to be quiet since you're in the library, or when your elder brother or older sister tells you to bathe your pet dog. Our second function is social interaction. In here, we communicate with other people for us to be able to connect with them. This is the most common function of communication. Through social interactions and communicating with them, we make friends with other people in our society and share our common interest with them. So for our picture as an example, you can see here Filipinos who speak different languages like Kapampangan, Ilocano, Waray, and Cebuano, but they talk with each other to be friends with each other and to socially interact with other people. Other examples of social interactions are when you are engaged in a Google Meet or Zoom meeting with your colleagues to talk about anything under the sun, when elderly people are doing a group exercise, or when children are playing games or talking with each other when they are in school or wherever they may be. Function number 3 is emotional expression. In here, a person communicates to express his or her feelings or emotions towards a particular situation, a person, or event. Now, like social interaction, it is also one of the most common reasons why we communicate. You can see here in the picture a parent and a son expressing their love for each other, especially now wherein they spend more time at home because of the pandemic. Other examples of emotional expressions are when you are consoling someone who has a problem, nonverbal cues like smiling at someone that you like or you are in love with, or holding the hand of a friend as a sign of reassurance, and of course, a mother expressing her love to her son. The fourth function of communication is motivation. In here, we communicate with other people to stimulate these people or to stimulate them to act positively to achieve their desired goals in life. The speaker may encourage people to live better by talking to them. So just like in this example, our photo, you have this person telling the other person who is trying to reach him to just do it and that he or she can do it, positively motivating him to achieve his or her goals. Other examples of motivations are whenever we attend church service and the pastor or the priest or the minister shares to us his good news to motivate us to live better lives. Or when a coach tells the member of a team, of a sports team, to do it, to perform better so that they can win in their game. Or when a dad motivates his son to learn how to ride the bicycle even though the son has stumbled many times. The last function of communication is, of course, information dissemination. In here, one person shares his or her ideas, knowledge, or information with other people. This is the core reason why we communicate. And what we are doing now is a perfect example of information dissemination. Just like in our picture here, a person, a student, is sharing to us his knowledge on the current pandemic and what he knows about the COVID virus which causes this pandemic. To give you other examples of information dissemination, we have a person who is reading the news on the newspaper. We have a teacher discussing something or a very important story to her students. You have a grandmother who is teaching her granddaughter how to draw or how to paint. And of course, 3 businessmen who are sharing their know-how and their knowledge to improve their craft. So basically, those were the 5 functions of communication. We have number 1, control and regulation. You have, of course, social interaction, emotional expression, motivation, and the last one, information dissemination. Now, students, let's have a quick recap of what we have discussed so far by watching this short video.
The first function, called control, is where communication functions to control behavior, which means that it takes place to control some people's actions. Let's take a look at this example. Our second function is called the social interaction, where communication allows individuals to interact with others. A simple example for this is our everyday conversation with friends, with our peers. And our third function is called motivation, where communication motivates or encourages people to live better. An example for motivation is a coach encouraging his team in a contest. The fourth function, called emotional expression, is where communication facilitates people's expression of their feelings and emotions. An example for this is a dramatic scene from a short film entitled Emotional Expression, starring Donicel Paul. Is this him? Our last function, called information dissemination, is where communication functions to convey information. An everyday example for this is a teacher lecturing his students.
And now let's go back to our first slide. Can you still remember these 5 pictures? Now I'm going to give you 10 seconds to identify what functions of communication are being depicted by each of these 5 pictures. Your 10 seconds start now. Okay, dear students, I'm going to show you the answers. I hope you got them all correct. So the first picture is a perfect example of social interaction. The second one, wherein we have a policeman directing traffic on the road, is an example of control or regulation. The third photo is, of course, motivation. We have a speaker motivating his listeners. Picture number 4 is an example of emotional expression. And the last one, wherein we have a female TV reporter, is, of course, information dissemination. So that ends our discussion for today, my dear students. You were able to learn about the 5 functions of communication. For our final video lesson for week 1 in oral communication in context, you will be learning what the elements of communication are. Once again, this has been your teacher in OCC, Mr. Reggie A. Bonifacio, always reminding you to keep safe and enjoy learning. And please remember, stars shine the brightest in the darkness. So amidst the dark times brought about by this pandemic, continue to shine. Good day and goodbye.